What's up guys, it's finally time for Machina's deck profile. I've been promising this deck for like 2 weeks now, but I've been delaying it every time something came up. So I feel really guilty about that, but I finally got it together. I've been playtesting, I've been like, I don't know, this is so weird. I've been like, at first I was like poking these sides and I couldn't get it to be straight. And I think it's straight now, and now my like speech is all slurred. It's kind of weird. But I've been playtesting this deck for quite a while now. And yeah, I just spent like 5 minutes doing that. Like, no joke, I literally went like this and like this until it was straight because my OCDs are like killing me. I'm so easily distracted. This is really bad. But I've been playtesting this deck for quite a while, and I think it's kind of where I finally want it to be. It plays really, really well, and it's not anything too new from what we've been seeing around, but it's also not as like linear. I kind of wanted to go for like a combo aspect so that I can either win through J activating or by just putting really big creatures on board. So it works really well actually, and I've been doing really good with it. So the ruler is, of course, the regular Machina. This one completely outclasses the other one in my opinion because it does have a really good ruler side, whereas the other one just is like J-activate for 4. So they have the same J-activate cost, but this Machina says you can pay like any amount of cost, and you search your deck for a card of that cost. And it's really good because if you ever have mana open, you pretty much make it into resonators, and that's just really, really, really strong. More importantly too is like, if your opponent knows that you're trying to flood the field, so they keep trying to use cards like, let's say like Demon Flame or any kind of like 1-for-1 kind of card on like your Clockwork Soldiers or anything that you summon, it ends up just like not mattering because like you got your card for free, but they're wasting their resource, so eventually they're just going to fall behind. And I actually really quite like that. It makes them kind of really, really good because they always have to be careful about how they print void cards, because if they're too good, they'll just be staples in every deck, and that's obviously going to be an issue. So being able to make it so that he kind of supports the whole deck makes it with what I've always been saying in terms of like the reflect problem. If they made kind of certain deck types more exclusive to certain rulers, it would make it so that, you know, you're more likely to play that ruler instead of just, let's say, reflect, because reflect makes everything better in, you know, certain arguments. But so like, for example, you wouldn't want to play reflect in this deck because you would lose the search off Machina. That's a lot more relevant than the scrying from reflect. So I actually quite like I like Machina as a ruler for this deck. I think he does really good. And then his J ruler side is your main source of winning. That being said, Barrier of Shadows can be a problem, but you need to just learn how to play around it. This side says that when he enters the field, you can put 3 void additions or resonators from your hand into the field, and then he can also banish a resonator, a void resonator, and it prevents all damage from this turn. That's actually one of his most important abilities, and I'll get to it later. And then his God's Art is pay 3, and then resonators with no attribute can't be destroyed. I think I've literally never used that ability once in my entire life, even before like all the support or anything, just ever. I've just never used it. There's no need. You win the turn you J-activate pretty much, so it's hard for your opponent to come back. For the stones, I run 4 Brutal Conquerors Memoria. This is just because I'm running 10 Firestones, and so I figured why not. There's no reason not to have this over the Firestone. 6 is enough to side Flame Trap, which I think is actually a really, really good card. But yeah, it's literally just like 10 Firestones. If you don't have the Brutal Conquerors Memoria, you really don't need it. You can just get 10 Firestones and be totally fine. So for anyone that like doesn't already have the cards, you don't have to go out of your way to get them. It's just kind of like, you know, why not? But it's all fire, and it's gonna seem crazy, but this deck is actually 36 void cards and 4 fire cards, and the 4 fire cards are just 4 Guineveres. So I think Guinevere is really good in this deck because, like I said, it's supposed to be very combo oriented. She fills up your hand and gets certain cards in the graveyard, and you want to be able to get Mariabella into the graveyard, because you can either sack her from the field to search, or you can discard her from your hand to use the second effect from the grave later. And Guinevere just kind of speeds that up, and it's nice to work outside of Mariabella too, just because if your opponent's forced to kill something like a Roblox or a Tick-Tock, and you sack it, you still get the effect off that, plus you get to draw 2 and discard 1. So she just has a lot of like advantage in this deck. She fills up your hand, and she fixes all of the combo plays. And then for Clockwork Soldier, this is the best one drop I think. Dummy Doll is really, really great, and I wanted to find room for it, but this deck actually gets really full really fast. Clockwork Soldier, I think, was just the best target because it has target attack and it's 3/3. So if you go first and you drop a Clockwork Soldier, and if your opponent, let's say, plays like an Alice Scout, you can target attack it even if you know you might not want them to draw a card. I kind of started assuming that if people are playing cards like Messenger Familiar, Alice Scout, Rook Egg, all those kind of like little cards, I probably wouldn't attack into a Rook Egg because it means they can follow up with the land slot. But generally, like, you can hit like a Wind Sprite, any kind of mana dork, you can just like attack into it, other than Moonbreeze, of course, and all those like Messenger Familiar and stuff like that. Just because Adam Broly, I think, is going to be really big in those kind of like one-drop decks. People are going to want to just drop like an Alice Scout and Messenger and then sack for Adam Broly, anything like that. So it's just really annoying. The more you clear their board, the more they kind of get annoyed of like that one card that's doing it. So they just kind of like aim to take out the Clockwork Soldier. And as they slowly waste time on the Clockwork Soldier, you just set up and win. So Clockwork Soldier is a beast. He like completely just like single-handedly kills everything. Especially once you use March later on, the target attack is actually really relevant. And then for Mariabella, so Mariabella says when this card is put into the graveyard from your field, you can search a Marybell, the Regalia, or the 5-drop Marybell, the Insane Machine. And you can banish this card from the graveyard, and it costs 2 less to activate Marybell's, the Regalia's activate, or to play Marybell, the Insane Machine. So essentially, if you, let's say, go Guinevere, sack this, like if they try to kill it, like I would never sack it just for the search effect unless I really want it, but because she's a machine too, so she counts on the field and you want as many machines on the field as you can. And so you would go, like, let's say you attack and they try to like kill it, you would sack it for Guinevere, search the Marybell, and then draw 2 cards and discard one. And if you hit another one, you can discard another one too, and it ends up being so good later on. But I'll get into the main reason of why she's really good later on. And then 3 Roblox. So Roblox, at first I thought this card was like completely not that good, but after playing with it, this and Tick-Tock I think are insane. I wanted to play 4 and 4, but I just didn't have the room for it, so I went with 3 and 3. There's a very interesting combo that you can do in this deck. It's kind of like what causes like this like cascade effect, I guess you can say. So when Marybell enters the field, when Machina enters the field, your main purpose is to want to have at least 1 machine already or 2 machines. And then you drop, like, let's say a Dark Machina, a Tick-Tock, and a Roblox. And then your Dark Machina would search March into Machines. You would only get March into Machines if you have 4 Resonators and a Remote Control Piece in your hand. So you can play the Remote Control Piece for 0, having 5 on the field, and then use March. Or you can use, if you have 2 machines already, and you drop, like, say, like this, a Roblox and Dark Machina, you would just straight up search to March into Machines in the first place, especially if you have Remote Control Beast. That just makes it even better. But what makes this combo so good is, like I said, how Machina's sack to prevent damage effect is really, really important, is because once you J-activate and you flood the field and you activate March into Machines, even with 1, typically sometimes you would need more than 1 depending on how many blockers your opponent has. But now what makes it so good is you can go, let's say, swing with the Clockwork Soldier that you already had, sling with the Tick-Tocks that's like a 7/11, the Roblox would be 500, and then let's say your Dark Machina is 700. So you get all that damage in, and then you use Machina to sack the Tick-Tock to make it so he takes no damage. This goes to the graveyard, effect triggers. Summons a Roblox, you attack with the Roblox, sack the Roblox, summons a Clockwork Soldier, attack with the Clockwork Soldier. March into Machines is a... excuse me. March into Machines is like a global effect, so it applies to anything that comes afterwards as well. And that's also why if you have 5 Resonators already and you start swinging with everything, you don't want to reveal that you have the Remote Control Golem until after you've seen how your opponent blocks. So say if you attack with all 5 things, start sacking everything and they're somehow still alive, you would then just go drop Remote Control Beast, attack. Drop Remote Control Beast, attack. It just makes it so that they don't know what to anticipate, so you don't want to just drop your whole hand if you've already played March until you see how your opponent particularly blocks all the attacks. Same concept with the sack effect goes for Mariabella. There's been times where I've had, like, let's say a Clockwork Soldier, a Mariabella, and so I drop 3 Resonators, and I already have like a bunch of March into Machines, and one of the cards I dropped was like a Dark Machina. I would go on Machina's enter effect, it's in the chase, you use this effect to sack Mariabella, search the 5-drop machine, you now have the 5-drop machine in your hand, which you can drop with Machina's effect, and then you would also drop the Dark Machina and the other card, and then just search like a Remote Control Beast or a March into Machine, whatever you want, and you got like a free Mariabella to your hand. A Marybell to your hand. Sorry, all the names are like exactly the same, but So once again, like, so let's say if you have him, you deactivate him, you don't have Insane Machine in your hand. On his enter effect while it's in the chase, you would sack the Mariabella that you have on the field. She'd go to the graveyard, it would search the Marybell, the Insane Machine, and then you would just end up playing it because it's in your hand and his enter still has to resolve. And it's just really cool to be able to do like little tricks like that. Not to mention like how I said with Tick-Tocks and Roblox, how you could just sack them to make no damage, but it triggers their effect. You end up pushing for like a ton of damage really, really fast. And then for Dark Machina, this is like the most important card in the deck. When you deactivate, you want to drop as much of these as you can because it just turns into your lethal cards. This can either search March into Machines or Remote Control Beast, depending on which one you need. You typically almost have one or the other because of Guinevere filling up your hand so quickly, but it's just like an additional way to get everything. And even if you just drop one of these and get one March and you have a Remote Control Beast and like 4 on the field, it's most likely going to be game, especially if there's like a Roblox amongst them. But if you drop 2 and got like 2 remote control beasts and you have 5 on the field already, or if you get like 2 March into Machines because you already have 5 on the field, it's really, really, really good. It's like there's like no way for your opponent to survive. I don't run like any removal in this deck because your source of removal is all the insane amount of damage you drop all at once. Your opponent is literally forced to block everything or they're gonna die, and even then sometimes they can't block everything. And so in order to force their field to like get destroyed, you just attack with insane numbers and they're just forced to block. So even if they survive, they have absolutely no resource left. You still have a full board of 5 creatures and they have to sit there and try to get like rid of all of them, and it's just like impossible. They just can't. Remote Control Beast. This card is what makes going against cards like Flame Trap or Interdimensional Escape so insane. If let's say I have 5 cards on the field and this is one of them and I've already used March into Machines, there's been plenty of times where I've had like this, a Tick-Tock, and a Roblox, and I'll just go swing with Remote Control Beast. My opponent uses Interdimensional Escape. I decide to keep the Remote Control Beast, so unless they're also selecting their only blocker as their option, that they're going to still have after Interdimensional Escape, I mean, they're going to lose their whole field and I'm going to lose my whole field, except my Remote Control Beast's attack is either going to still go through or destroy that one blocker they had left, so they wipe their own board. And then my Tick-Tock and my Roblox are going to summon a 2-drop and a 1-drop. And then if the Tick-Tock hit another Roblox, that Roblox can be sacked by Machina to hit another 1-drop. So it's like you swing for 11, and then they use Interdimensional Escape. Let's say they lose 11, they're at 29. Your Roblox that's now in the field is 500 attack because it's still affected by March. You swing for 5. 600 with Clockwork Soldier, that's another 11. And then you sack the Roblox and then get another Clockwork and swing for 6. So it's like they try to stop your board, but you still swung for like 3,000 damage. And they still have to deal with 3 cards next turn plus a J Ruler. And it's just, it sets them so behind. And then 3, Marybell, Insane Self, oh well, see, they're doing it again. I just can't, all these Marybell cards are like tongue twisting me. But 3 Marybells, the Insane Self-Aware Machine. There you go. This card is just because it's searchable by Mariabella. Being able to drop big creatures for really, really little cost is actually really good as well. There's been times where I've had 2 Mariabellas in the graveyard and I've just banished both to play this for 1. And then, like, sometimes I would deactivate on turn 5. I mean on turn 6 technically, so I had 5 stones. And so I would like deactivate, drop 3 monsters, and then, because I had no board. And then I would sack 2 Mariabellas from the graveyard, banish them, remove them from game, sorry. This video is going awful. And then play Mariabell for 1. And then drop Remote Control Beast for free, and then March into Machines, and I have this as one of those like 1-drops, and it's just like you're gonna die. There's no way you're surviving this. So I never really use the effect quite often, but having the Pierce is really nice as well. But typically you just want it for the 12/12 body and the low cost from Mariabella. And then for Marybell, Marybell's awesome. Marybell's just so awesome. If your opponent goes out of the way to Hera this, it sets you actually so far ahead because you're not dealing with all the Robloxes and Clockwork Soldiers on the field. And what makes this card so great is it literally is the reason why this deck doesn't die to heavy removal decks. If I have like 2 Marybells on the field and I don't do anything when I have like tap for my 4th stone, pass. I have, let's say, a Mariabella in the graveyard. Mariabella says I can play this for 2 less, and Machina says I can play it for 2 less. So if I really want, I can play Marybell for 1. And so if your opponent's constantly blowing up your field because you're playing like a heavy kill spell deck, they're most likely not pushing for damage because that's typically in like Dark, and Dark doesn't really push for damage that often. And so they're trying to kill everything, thinking, okay, you can't deactivate, you can't do anything, and you just go, sure. On my draw, remove from play Mariabella from my graveyard, and I have 4 stones. Play Marybell for 1. And then play the other Marybell you have for 3. And so you summon 2 Marybells on your draw phase, and then you recover. J-activate, now you already have 2 machines on the field, you drop everything you need, and then just OTK them. The fact that like you can go from an empty board, even with just 1 Marybell, like if I have 1 mana open, and I had like a Tick-Tock last turn, and they didn't want to kill it because of course I'm going to get the effect off, or let's say they did kill it and I hit a Roblox. On your draw phase, if you have 1 open, you can sack the Mariabella from the graveyard, play Marybell for 1, recover, J-activate, and now you have 2 on the field. You drop a Dark Machina, and then whatever, search the March into Machines, play the March into Machines, and then just attack for game. And it's just so good. Like, the fact that you also get, like, Regalia Destruction on top of it just makes it so much better. Like, this card is insane. Being able to play it for 1 is just... That's funny, I said it's insane, and then it's like Marybell, the self-aware insane machine, you know? That's funny. I'm funny. But yeah, this card is insane. And then Mariabella's work. This card I wanted to play at 4, but I really don't like it. I thought it was going to be like really crazy and like you were just going to like draw infinite cards. But typically the only time this comes in handy is like after I've already set up like an OTK and I might be like a little damage short. I'll be like Maribella's work, draw 2 cards, and then maybe hit another one, and then be like Maribella's work, draw 2 cards, and then I'll have like another March in Machines like, oh, okay, this is cool, and I'll just play March and win. But other than that, you don't really get to use it early. You get it when you've already like set up, and so it kind of feels like it's not really helping you get there, but it definitely helps you get some combo pieces just in case it wasn't enough. So it's nice to grab more marches, but it's never like made or broke a game for me, but it hasn't hurt in any way either, so I just left it at 3. And then the 4 marches, most important card, your absolute win condition. You play March into Machines, everything gains swiftness, +3/+3. It costs 0 if you have 5 creatures on the board, which is like absolutely like really easy to do with all these new cards. This card just completely like overwhelms your opponent. It's really nice too because like getting multiples in your hand is actually really easy. I'll have like 3 sometimes, and like there's been times where I played against like a reflect deck that I've already been like picking away at because they were trying to like hold all their options for my OTK, and I'll be like March and they'll have 1 open and like 6 counters on their J activated refrain, and they'll be like Wall of Wind, and I'm like sure March, and then they go remove 5 counters to negate it. And I'm like, okay, March, and then they just lose. And it's just like, it's so cool. Like, even with like heavy control, they just can't always do anything. They don't always have the answers. And you get all your cards for free, so it doesn't feel like you're even doing anything. Like, unless something can rush you down faster than you can, which is really unlikely. Like, even against fairies, this deck was doing really good. And fairies are like one of the fastest decks right now. It's just really hard to try to outpace it. The only way I find it is if they Barrier of Shadows in a deck that's already fast. They can now kind of catch up and be able to kill you before you might be able to set up, because that extra turn it takes you to J-activate does sometimes hurt. But like I said, like it's not a very J-activate like heavy deck, so and that's just like the real OTK to go for. But you can easily just set up a bunch of like machines, remote control, and then March anyway, because you fill up your hand so quickly. So you have both like angles at it. So if they're spending time setting up barrier, you can just try to flood your field yourself. If they're not playing barrier, you can just kill them with the OTK. So it just works really well. So thanks for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed the video. I was like slurred for some reason the whole time and really distracted, but I hope that kind of adds a little bit of fun to it. I, for whatever reason, actually am always really distracted. I have like the mind of a squirrel, but it was like especially hard with all the Marybell names because they're all the same. But I hope you guys enjoyed the deck profile. I hope it was clear enough to understand. If you do have any questions, make sure to ask me in the comment section below, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed, because I have a ton of more deck profiles coming out. I'm starting to work on like dual stone decks because dual stones are getting released in Bing Off 2, and so I might be thinking of some creative decks to play around then. I actually have this like really cool Sylvia idea that a friend told me about a long time ago and I just like randomly remembered, but I'm gonna try to kind of build that as well. So I'll have a lot of deck profiles coming soon, especially with dual stones. I'm excited to have like the new change because I have been feeling like I have less options to play without the dual stones. But I'll definitely try to figure some stuff out and bring you guys some cool deck profiles. So make sure to subscribe, follow me on Twitter. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll absolutely catch you guys next time.